In this video, we will discuss why Indian people are happy and relaxed, while Chinese people are frightened and intense. We will demonstrate that the reason Chinese people appear frightened and intense is that the Chinese languages contain high concentration of alarm sounds in them. And these alarm sounds give the Chinese drive and motivation, allowing them to outcompete the Indians in manufacturing, development, and wealth.
China, as you know, dominates the Indian smartphone market. Chinese brands command at least 75% of the market share, from Vivo to Realme, Oppo to Xiaomi. The biggest smartphone brands in India are all Chinese.
An interesting question that arises is, why are Chinese languages such as Mandarin, Cantonese, and Hokkien alarm languages, which increase fear and motivation in the Chinese people? On the other hand, the question is, why are the Indian languages such as Hindi, Tamil, or Bengali not alarm languages? And why the Indian languages do not increase fear and drive in the Indian people, and as a result, Indians are not able to intensely focus on manufacturing as are the Chinese. Further, without this restriction of fear, as is the case with Chinese, Indians appear more relaxed and happy, and are highly expressive with music and dance.
ऐसा कुछ मैं बोल रहा नहीं, उसको हिंदी ठीक से समझता नहीं है, इससे बड़ा तो पागल है, बेवकूफ इंसान है, जिंदगी में देखा है.
So let's have a look at alarm sounds in nature, and then let's compare these alarm sounds to the alarm sounds found in the Chinese languages. The first example is an alarm or distress call produced by a magpie bird. Next, we have a distress call or alarm sound produced by a rat. The next example of a distress call or alarm call is that of a koala. And the final example is that of a cottontail rabbit. We can see that the distress or alarm sounds have a lot of similarity to that of a human cry or scream. And here is an example of a human scream. When listening to or when producing distress or alarm calls, we become somewhat distressed or alarmed ourselves. In fact, alarm or distress calls automatically prepare us for fight or flight, where a person or animal becomes more alert, focused, and attentive to the environment. Here we have an example of such behavior in a deer, where it's listening to distress calls, and you can see how its head is raised so it can see better. Ears are also raised to focus on the sounds. Its eyes are widely open to maximize its vision, and its movements are nervous and very alert. So normal alarm or distress calls sound like ah, ee, ow, I, a, an. However, the less intense version of these distress or alarm calls are ah, e, ow, I, a, an. Chinese Mandarin is perhaps the most intense alarm language in the world, where almost all words contain alarm sounds, and that is why China is such a major economic power. Let's take a look at some examples of Chinese words and the alarm components in these words. Here we have 3 Chinese Mandarin words. The first word is piao. Part of the word piao is yao, and that is the distress or alarm sound. Yao, 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 yao. The next Chinese word is shui, and part of shui is wei, wei, and that part is the alarm sound. Wei, 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 wei. The final word from Chinese Mandarin is chuan. Part of the word chuan is wan, and it is that part which is the distress or alarm sound. Wan, 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 wan. So the vowel sounds with tones are alarm sounds. Here are the 4 tones of Mandarin Chinese.
Ah, 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 ah.
And here are some examples of words with these 4 tones.
Ma, 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 ma.
So the diphthongs are alarm sounds.
Ow, I, o, a, yeah, ya, wa, wo, yue.
And here is an example of a word with a diphthong in it.
Hao, hao.
And the triphthongs are also alarm sounds. And because they are very long, they are intense alarm sounds.
Yao, yo, wai, wei.
And here is an example of a word with a triphthong in it.
Biao, biao.
Also, vowels and diphthongs, followed by nasals, are all alarm sounds, as nasal sounds are acoustically valve-like sounds.
An, ang, en, yin, ying, yun, ong, yan, yang, wan, wang, wen, wong, yuan, yong.
And here are examples of words with nasal finals.
脸，脸，床，北京，中国。
Then you add tones to these compounds and you have a highly intense alarm language. As one can see, Chinese languages have almost all words with alarm or distress parts in them. It's hard to believe, but these biologically scary sounds are the driving force, the spirit, the energy of the Chinese people. it made the Chinese highly frightened and thus focused, attentive, and vigilant. Just like the deer in the following video is more focused, attentive, and alert to danger when listening to alarm calls. Indian languages such as Hindi, on the other hand, have almost none of the alarm sounds that exist in Chinese Mandarin. Hindi is rather a relaxed and melodic language where the syllables have simple consonant followed by vowel structure. Hindi is also a fast-flowing language due to the multisyllabic tendency of the words. So when words have many syllables, then the syllables are pronounced quicker, shortening the vowel quality where possible, and thus reducing the alarm quality. Hindustani languages such as Hindi or Urdu originate from an earlier Sanskrit language, which had 5 short and 5 long vowels. However, now the distinction is not in terms of length, but tenseness, where the short vowels are lax and long vowels are tense. Thus, vowels in Hindi and Urdu, as well as most other Indian languages, are short and thus are not alarm sounds.
करते हैं सगाई बताएंगे बिरला मंदिर के आचार्य रविंद्र नागर जी इस छोटे से ब्रेक के बाद देखते रहिए धर्म.
Hindi and other Indian languages have lateral and nasal finals, which together with the preceding vowels comprise alarm sounds. However, this type of sound combinations are rather rare in Hindi, and they are pronounced in a shortened way so as not to disturb the consonant vowel melodic structure of the language, making these alarm sounds rather weak. Finally, Indian languages have a number of diphthongs pronounced within a single pulse of air, which are alarm sounds. Such diphthongs are relatively rare in Indian languages when compared to Chinese languages. In summary, Chinese study harder and longer than Indians because the Chinese people speak intense alarm languages.
Just finished dinner, now it's around 6:30. We're heading back to class for one more night class and 2 more self-study sessions. And then we'll end around 10:20. That's when we can go back to our dorms and sleep.
The reality is that if you look at very basic primary school level math numbers, you realize that the difference between China and India is so huge that there is no hope for India to become the next China.
And in summary, Chinese people work harder and longer than the Indians because the Chinese speak intense alarm languages, and because of the fear illuminated in the Chinese character, they are able to focus and pay attention to details at work and during manufacturing process better than the Indians. Thus, the Chinese can make better, quicker, and cheaper products than the Indians, no matter what the labor cost is. You cannot have an industrious and prosperous society if the majority of the population are relaxed and complacent, where people are happy, laughing and dancing. Indian government should gradually install alarm sounds into Indian languages. They should introduce long vowels, diphthongs, triphthongs, and nasal finals such as the ones that exist in Mandarin Chinese. If India installs such alarm sounds, the country will quickly develop and will be able to manufacture their own high-quality products and will still be able to maintain its colorful and expressive culture. If, on the other hand, India wants to become highly intense and extremely hardworking and competitive, like China, Korea, or Japan, then they need to further install tones that are used to distinguish meaning so that the Indian languages become tonal languages. If you would like to investigate this idea a little bit more closely, please check one of my book versions on the topic. Evolutionary Alarm Sounds Within Languages is the first version. Frighten the World into Prosperity is the second version. Motivate Poor Countries to Develop is the third version.
So India has no hope, even in the lifetimes of my grandchildren, to catch up with China.
Do you want to stay and live in Delhi all your life, or you want to change the location?
No, if I'll get a chance, for sure I'll go out of India.
Where exactly?
Actually, I want to go London.
In London?
Yeah.